4 years and 100 interviews with entrepreneurial women and men from this region. They worked hard, they're grateful, they give back, and they share the secrets of success with the next generation. Welcome to Season 4 of the Northeast Pennsylvania Business Journal.
Welcome back to the Business Journal. Have you ever heard of Gerrity's Supermarkets? Here's a business begun in 1895 with a small meat market. Generations later, it survives stiff competition.
I'm Joyce Fasula, and this is my son Joseph and my son Neal. I own a supermarket in northeastern Pennsylvania.
That's entirely too humble on your part, Joyce.
That's what it is.
You've got to get a little more detailed than that.
I think
you
so
run a supermarket. You run 9 supermarkets.
I know, but when you're talking to people, I'm not a person to make myself bigger than I am. I am a supermarket. It started out as a supermarket, and it started out as a little meat market, which we grew into a supermarket and just happened to evolve into 9 supermarkets. But I don't like to overdo it.
You are Gerrity's Supermarkets.
Yes.
And allow me to share with you and your sons, Joe and Neal, Joe to your right and Neal to your far right, that I'm the nominator. We invite all the people who've been interviewed on Northeastern Pennsylvania Business Journal to nominate people who they feel would be wonderful examples of entrepreneurs. And I'm the nominator. And we have never met. I'm an admirer from afar. I mean, I have seen the billboards. Mom's in charge, we're moms in charge. A great advertising slogan, a great campaign, and you're the mom.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and you have a wonderful family story, and we really try to get family business success stories. And so that's why you're here. Now the rest of it's up to you. I'm going to leave the room, and you're to talk amongst yourselves for the next hour.
Well, she is the mom, but we're the only ones that actually can call her our mom. So, everybody will say, oh, that's mom, or blah, 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 or everybody in the stores call her mom. And I'll always interject, yeah, but, she's our mom. So.
We always say that she has 2 biological children and 1,000 adopted children.
Yeah.
That's a great slogan.
Yeah. We have we do orientation for all of our new hires, and one of the 3 of us is always at that orientation, and I tell all of them at the end of the orientation that they are now part of Mom's 1,000 family strong company. So.
You give me the opportunity for the first time since I took an email, and as emails are, anonymous email, complaining to me that we in this series make heroes of the people who own the businesses, but why don't we pay more attention to the employees? And my response to that person, if that person would have made me aware of her or his email, would have been that almost all of you in these interviews make heroes of your employees.
Oh, absolutely.
You really do.
Yeah.
When my father passed away, we had 400 employees at that time. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here today. My mother was a teacher, and she had to make the decision of whether or not to step into the position of being president of the company. And she knew my father's big hopes and dreams, and she knew how to slice lunch meat and get the carts and stock the shelves, but running the business, that was something that we needed them for.
Joyce, you have an MBA from Marywood, I understand?
Yes.
An
yes.
MBA?
Yes.
Masters of Business Administration?
That was part of my background. I was an elementary school teacher and then got an MBA in counseling education.
In counseling education.
Yes.
So I was trying to be satirical there. So you tell us about Neal Sr., your husband, and how all that we have in front of us here began, if you will.
Well, he graduated from the University of Scranton as an accountant, and went to New York to work for 2 years. And as he was going through high school and college, he worked for Joe Gerrity, who owned a little meat market. But as Neal went through high school and college, Mr. Gerrity taught him a little bit more all the time, and he became a butcher, basically. And he went to New York, thought that was going to be his career, and Mr. Gerrity was burned out of his building. And he was in his early 50s. He didn't want to stop working, so he called Neal and asked if he'd come back to Scranton to go in business with him.
Now, Neal Sr. is your husband.
Yes.
Goes to, he's in accounting, and he just doesn't go into business in New York. He goes to Haskins and Sells.
Yes.
Which is really big time.
Yes, at that time it was one of the big eight, I believe Big Eight, one of the big accounting firms in New York City.
So he leaves northeastern Pennsylvania, leaves hometown, born and raised here, I presume.
Oh, yes.
Goes to New York and works at Haskins and Sells. Mr. Gerrity, for whom he worked when he was in high school and college, wants him to come back and help run the business.
Right.
And he does so, and that becomes the start. Well, it remains Gerrity's in the name of the Gerrity family, but and eventually Mr. Gerrity wants to sell out his interest in Neal.
Yes. But we kept the name because it was well known in the area for being a very good meat store and specialty cuts and things like that. So we decided to continue that name because it was well known instead of changing to Fasula and create a whole lot of confusion.
So when do you meet Neal Sr., your husband?
I met Neal in college before he graduated, but actually I guess I really met him in high school, because he was the delivery boy at that time and used to deliver to my family's home. Because Gerrity's would, you call your order in, they deliver it.
So he graduates University of Scranton with a degree in accounting. You graduate Marywood College at the time,
yes,
right? With a degree in?
Education.
In education. Not too many business courses.
No.
Okay, so your husband Neal dies, I gather, fairly unexpectedly.
Yes.
At what age?
49.
At 49.
Yes.
Boy, he has how many stores, Gerrity's stores at that point?
We had 4 at that point.
You had 4 at that point.
Well, actually, we just had 5.
Did we
We
have
had opened the
fifth
5th.
one?
Yeah.
All right.
Hazelton.
Oh, that's right. We had just opened Hazelton. Yeah, I forgot about that, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Right,
but
so-
before he passed away, he had signed the deal to purchase 5 more stores.
Right.
So we were going from 400 employees to 900 employees.
In one snap, like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, that was basically it.
Yep.
You are both in college when this happens?
I was actually still in high school, and Joe was a senior at the University of Scranton.
All right. And so you're basically on your own.
Yes.
You're left with a total of how many stores at this point?
5 stores at that point.
5 stores, and you don't have the educational background in
Correct.
business to take it on.
No.
I guess this is the moment in the show around which everything is based.
It is.
Yes.
Tell us all about that. Who are you at this point in time? What are you faced with? How do you get your arms around a problem of that dimension? Your sons are not at your side ready to pick up the ball.
Correct. But Joe is graduating. My husband passed away in February. Joe is graduating in June. And we knew he wanted to come into the business. So at that point, it was a decision whether to sell the business or to keep the business. Knowing he wanted to come into the business, that was the big question. Are you really going to come into the business? Is that really what you want to do for the rest of your life, type of thing, And, coming out of high school or college, you're kind of like, I still don't know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Or who I am, really,
and who
sure.
I am. But so we kind of had to have that. Sat with my staff, with my husband's staff, and got a feeling from them how they would react if I took over the business. Talked to a couple of financial advisors to see what kind of situation we were in, and basically kind of brought it all together and said, well, I know he's coming into the business. I know we're financially sound. I know we've signed the papers to take on 4 more stores. I know I have a good staff that'll support me. So we're kind of putting the wheels on and away we went.
Powerful decision to have to make.
Yes, and it was in a short period of time to be made, too.
Did you have entrees from other companies who wanted to buy your company?
Yes, over the years. Well, even at that time.
Yeah, at that
there were a
time.
lot of people that, stepped forward and said, do you want to sell the business? And like I said, I knew Joe was coming into the business. Neal was still in high school. I thought he might come this direction, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, so Joe, you're a senior in where? University of Scranton?
Yeah.
And what's your major?
Business.
Business
Management.
administration. I've read in the notes, which are fascinating. There's a book here, folks. Read in the notes where you gave some thought at one point to going away before you came back. And let me give you a little background on that. Many of the second and third generation family business people that I have interviewed in our Business Journal series insisted that their kids do just that.
Absolutely.
That they go away and find out who they are, learn how and you did, Neal, we're going to talk about that. Learn about how other businesses operate, get the broader perspective, the 30,000-foot view, and then come back into the business. You, for very practical reasons, decided you couldn't do that. Is that right?
Yeah, it was obviously a very difficult time, and we were left with that decision of what to do. And I had always intended to come into the business. I loved it. I would go to the store when we had just one store with my dad, and I'd get carts or wreak havoc throughout the stores or whatever kept me busy. And I just grew up with it. I worked in produce and dairy and grocery and in every single department. I just fell in love with the business. And when I came out, I had a job offer from another supermarket company, and I think going forward, that's something I'm going to want my kids to do. I want my kids to go out there and get that experience to bring back to the company, not just for their own personal growth, but for our company's growth as well. I think that's important. But I think if I had gone and worked for another company at that point, I think that people would have read into that in a very negative way.
So you wanted to symbolize the family's commitment to this business.
I felt that was my responsibility, absolutely.
My notes say that you were very close to your dad.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your dad's impact on you and how you became the Joe Fasula you are today, and that your dad impacted.
He was very, very well liked. He was someone that it seemed everybody in the community knew, everybody respected, and everybody loved. And to this day, there's people that come into the store and say, "Oh, I knew your dad. He was a great guy, and he did this for me, and he did that for me." And a lot of who I am as a person in terms of how I relate to our employees, how I relate to the community, how I relate to our customers, is things that not only I learned from him, but also from his legend, if you will. People we have employees that have been working for us for 20 years, and they still to this day talk about how my father treated the customer and how he said, well, if somebody's upset and it's just a couple dollars, give it back to them, make them happy, and more importantly, get them to come back again.
Yeah.
So there was the lesson, one of many.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's all about in our business, is getting that customer to come back again.
You said in the preparation for the interview in the notes that Catherine Davies, our producer, gave me, that your father was a wonderful example of hard work.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, he got up and he was at work by 7 in the morning. He'd get home around 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night. Worked 6-7 days a week, whatever it took. A lot of times our holidays were him running in the door as dinner was going on the table, or I remember her calling and yelling at him because it was 5 o'clock on Memorial Day and we were trying to have a cookout and he still wasn't home.
Do you remember that?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yep.
There were a lot of incidents like that, and I was just thinking the one time our store was broken into,
mm-hmm.
and like 1 o'clock in the morning, woke the two of them up and we took them to the store and started cleaning up the store because they had thrown flour and sugar and things like that on the floor. Place was a mess. And we spent from 1 o'clock until 7 the next morning cleaning the store.
Mm-hmm.
And we opened the doors at 7 o'clock.
That's right.
Yeah, don't forget to let them know that the birth of your kids were also put off by the business too.
Right. Right.
What does Neal mean by that?
Well, when Joe was born, when Neal was born, let's start with him. I had to wait for my husband to go and do payroll. So
before he would take you to the hospital?
Yes. And with Joe, at that time it was only a little store, and there was only my husband, Joe Gerrity, and one other person. And he kept saying to me, "I hope you're going to have this baby, because if you have me awake during the night and I can't work tomorrow, there's only going to be 2 guys there to work.
How practical of him.
So he's being very practical, so you better have this baby or else kind of thing.
Neal, I'm going to go back to Mom a lot in this interview because she's the celebrity, if you will. You have made her the celebrity, both of you.
Yes, they have.
Of the business. But we haven't heard much from you. Tell us about your beginnings in the business. And you are the example of the son, if you will, that I've talked about in other families, who goes away. You go to Trader Joe's in California.
Well, I wasn't out in it's a California-based company, but they had, over the last 10 so years, they moved further east. And so I worked out of Philadelphia, where I went to school.
Okay, you graduate University of Scranton.
No, I went to St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia.
University.
So I got out of town for college too. So I
Just like that.
Yep.
Was that a requirement on your part? You wanted to get out of town?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it was nice. I kind of wanted to kind of get away and see what it was like to get into a bigger city and kind of broaden my horizons that way and see what it was like to just get a little bit of a buffer zone between myself and Scranton and just see what it was like, and went to St. Joe's, and then after graduating I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do, but I thought it'd be a good idea to work for a different company and kind of see what it was like to go and do something on my own and kind of make a name for myself outside of the business in a separate company, which I did fairly quickly, working for Trader Joe's because of my background. And I went in there, and a lot of the girls training me the first couple days, and I never actually told them that I actually owned the supermarket chain that I worked at growing up. I mean, I said I worked there since I was 15 and that kind of stuff, but I never actually said that I owned it, or our family owned it. And this first day we're sitting there, and she's training me, and I'm listening to her, and I'm just kind of understanding what they're saying, but she could tell I knew what she was teaching me already. She goes, "Did you own these stores that you worked in growing up? I go, you really think that if I owned a chain of 9 supermarkets up in Scranton, I'd be down here working for Trader Joe's?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, I guess you're right." But I was there for a month, and they interviewed me for management, and then I was straightforward and said, like, "Listen, if you're going to expect me to go into management and further along in the company, I just want to be straightforward and let you know we actually do own the stores, and there's a possibility that I'll go back." But they were open with that, and I ended up staying with them for another 2.5, 3 years anyway. So,
what was your degree from St. Joe's?
Just like Joe, business management.
Business management. Was there, at the time you made the decision to, as you put it, get out of town and get your degree at St. Joe's?
Yeah.
Was there a time when there was a serious doubt in your mind that you would ever come back?
No, I mean, to be honest, when I went away to school, I really wasn't sure, what I wanted to get into. I had a thought of possibly going into law school, but after taking a couple law courses at St. Joe's, that quickly dissolved because just way too much reading and research to be a lawyer. So I'm more of a I like to do a lot more interaction and that kind of stuff rather than a lot of research and reading.
All right, so 2 to 2.5 years at Trader Joe's. Share with my audience, and I'm sure you've shared it with Mom and your brother, share with my audience what you learned at Trader Joe's that you brought back and put into place at Gerrity's.
And actually, I'm still kind of in the process of doing some different things. I actually, in the middle of looking at starting different, what's the best word of using it, or best way to explain it? Just like different ways of doing things, like just working some back stock, or, when I first came back, I just kind of questioned just a couple of different things that I knew that we would be doing at Trader Joe's, like tracking shrink, or just losses of, that if in the dairy, for instance, if something's out of code, you throw away. Well, we're just throwing it away, and I kind of raised the question, why aren't we really looking at what we're throwing away and actually tracking it and putting a number to it?
Help me, Joyce, if you will, understand the division of responsibilities in Gerrity's market. How do you spread out? I know the answer, but help my audience understand. How do you spread it out? You still go to work every day.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Do you mind asking, and if you just say so, your age?
64. No
64.
problem.
Okay, wonderful. Mm-hmm. Well, we're contemporaries.
Yes.
All right, so 64. And how did you once Neal came back in the business, how did the division of responsibilities happen?
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not sure we're there yet. When Neal did come back, though, we had created a management training program for Neal so that he could get totally immersed in the business. Mm-hmm. And what we did was kind of a nasty, but we did it anyhow. We had Neal work in every department and then manage every department.
6 months, my notes say 6 months in every department.
Yes.
You worked in every department, then spent 6 months managing a store.
Well, it varied from department to department, but I'd work with one of our stronger, more seasoned department managers for, 3 months or so.
Okay.
And then depending on the department and kind of the feel for how long, it would take to learn the ins and outs of the department, I'd, learn and work with them for 3 to 4 months, and then run one for basically a quarter of the year for a 3-month period, so that we could kind of get a snapshot as to how well I did and how things kind of panned out. And that's why some of the things that I saw at Trader Joe's I haven't been able to really bring back, because up until about this time last year I was going through this training program, so it lasted just 5.5 to 6 years.
Just until last year.
Yeah,
and you ran a store for 6 months.
Yes.
Which store was that?
Our store in Music.
Your store in Music.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
so we didn't have that opportunity with Joe.
Right.
Joe was just kind of thrown into it.
Yes, I understand.
Occasionally there were situations where we needed someone in a particular department, and then we would kind of throw him in there, and he would work it for a certain amount of time, but
There's
still
5
never got that training that Neal had.
5 years between you? Brothers?
4.
4 years between you. And plus add to that the 2.5 years you went away.
Yeah.
So we're really talking about 6.5 years separation from the business,
Right.
so to speak.
Yes.
Probably even more. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was even more than that.
So we didn't get the answer to the question how you divided responsibilities.
Well, trying to explain, where Neal is right now and the way Joe was thrown into the business, Joe kind of became my right-hand person as far as, sitting on my shoulder, listening to what was going on, so that when it was time to sit down and make decisions, he was always there to say, yeah, Mom, this is what I heard, or this is what I didn't hear. And so it kind of has fallen somewhat, and I think we'll change that as Neal develops here. But it's kind of fallen that Joe has a lot of the marketing and the financial end of it, and Neal, we're trying to move a little bit more towards operations.
Efficiencies.
As he talks about some of the things he did.
Is Joe the one we blame for the slogan?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, the slogan was developed by our advertising agency.
The slogan, by the way, if you just tuned in, is
Yeah.
where Mom knows best.
Where Mom's in charge.
Oh, where Mom's in charge.
Yes,
Mom
yes.
knows best, and it's where Mom's in charge.
Right, it's where Mom's
But
in
that was the
charge.
slogan that your ad agency came up with?
They did, but my wife actually had the idea. When I met my wife as my girlfriend, she said, boy, there's a woman in charge of your company, and you should be telling people this, because who makes most of the buying decisions, especially when it comes to the grocery business? And I always, again, I joke with all of our new hires, if you ever see the guy in the store, I guarantee he has a list, and he's terrified he's going to bring home the wrong type of tomato.
Oh, you've nailed that.
Yeah.
So you know that there's a woman behind him waiting to see what he brings home that's wrong. And that's just kind of something that developed over time. We really had to kind of talk her into it. We did some market studies. We had a professional marketing consultant come in and take a look at our advertising and our competition and our companies, and they came back and said, boy, this is the right way to go. You need to market the fact that this is a woman-owned company.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
they had to talk you into it?
Yes.
Oh,
Why?
yeah.
Yes. Well, as I said in the beginning, I'm just not that type of person that's out there. I like to be a little bit more reserved, let's put it that way.
It's a brilliant slogan.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant marketing campaign. Who else can do it?
That's right.
Isn't that the point?
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, in marketing class, we learned that the right way to market your company is a slogan that can't be duplicated.
Differentiation.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's really the key to everything. Have you been comfortable being the focus of that attention?
No, I've never really been comfortable about it, and that's why when I introduced myself to you, that's why I told you I owned a supermarket in northeastern Pennsylvania. I don't like to go overboard with this. I like to kind of, keep it quiet, low.
Neal, tell us how much Mom is involved in the business today. It's 2011. We're recording this interview. Remember, this is going to last a long time.
Yeah, but I'm not under oath. No, I mean, she's people are always impressed that, she knows a lot more of what goes on than they may or may not think. She knows the business, and she's picked up a lot over the years as far as, what should and shouldn't be being done. And, she's, during the summers, maybe not involved as much because of the golf course calls her a lot.
You're a golfer.
Yes.
Oh,
Big
yeah.
time.
Oh, big time.
Yes.
The golf course calls her a lot.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
In what way? Is she called to the golf course, or does she have activities there?
Yeah, she has activities there,
Well, she's not only the face of Gerrity's in our stores. We get a lot of requests for golf tournaments,
Yeah.
and it's my strategy in order to get her more out of the business to participate.
Oh, I get it now.
Right.
She participates in as many golf tournaments as possible.
Yeah. But no, she knows what's going on in the stores, and we have our Tuesday morning staff meetings that we have with
And
all
who
of our,
all comes to the staff meetings?
and that's the hierarchy of all of our supervisors and top management, and we have those meetings every
Weekly.
Tuesday. Yeah, and
Yes.
so and she's always there for the Tuesday morning meetings, so that really keeps her abreast of what's going on in the business and what's going on.
Are you a tough taskmaster?
I believe I am.
I can look at you and I sense that you are. First of all, you were formerly a teacher.
Right.
I can see you taking roll, and you better not be absent.
Yeah.
But of
Right.
course, you had a later life as owner.
But
And-
sometimes I just felt like I was running the principal's office. Whatever the problems were, they came into the principal's office and were taken care of. And the business somewhat was like that. The problems showed up. You sat in the office, you talked to your supervisors and anybody that you needed to, and you made the decision, and then you went out and did it.
So where Mom's in charge,
Yeah.
how in charge are you day to day?
I still try to be in charge day to day, but as they're saying, I do try to take. I do try to work less hours than I used to, and I do try to take a day here and there and golf.
Are you an awesome golfer?
No. Is anybody? Come on, if you golf, you know nobody's an awesome
Well, nobody
golfer.
admitted.
Right.
So back to you, Neal. What is Mom's role day to day?
Well, yeah, I mean, I
And Joe, pipe in here anytime
Yeah,
you
I
want to.
definitely say that she's a lot more intimidating to the rest of the staff than she is the two of us. So, I mean, when it comes to laying the law down and when things, when serious matters arise, she's always involved in the key decisions of the business in that sense. But, maybe Joe can.
Yeah. Well, I think it's fair to say that there's no big decisions we make without involving her in on it, and it's also fair to say that her name is invoked a lot of times, no different than a parent's name would be invoked. And boy, wait until your mother finds out.
I have to tell you that in doing these interviews, and I'm in the television business and have been for 4 decades. You, meaning I, can read faces and get a sense of, in this case, who's really serious and who's lighthearted. And I got this feeling 45 minutes ago when you first came in and we met in our green room, so to speak. And I met you, Joyce, and Joe, and Neal. And the first thing I said to you, Joyce, was Joe seemed a lighthearted, jovial kind of guy, and Neal seemed very serious. And I sit here, as I sit here now, and we hear you talking about you being a tough taskmaster, Joe saying, wait till Mom finds out, to the employees. And Neal also, although he's smiling right now, has a very serious face. He's more your face
Yes.
than Joe. Does that carry through to the personality, or is that just surface?
Well, Neal always likes to think that I'm the serious one, but everybody that works for him says that he's much more serious than I am.
You look much more serious.
That's good because it's, you know.